Good afternoon, everybody. It's RT here with HXRO Labs Live, episode 65, which is a Monday, obviously, which means we have a special guest in the studio today. And if you haven't already figured it out, his face is just to the left of me, Koroush AK from Twitter. And this guy has put together quite a successful, um, I should say, podcast with crypto meditations and has done a lot of free education on risk management, all the good stuff that we love and teach here as well. So, really excited to get into that with him and talk markets. Mostly talking markets today. Just another day in the studio, in the lab, and going to check out these price charts. You guys know, I think a variety of analysis can be really helpful, learning new things. So I'm going to obviously do a lot of my own because that's what I do. But I'm really excited to kind of unpack his approach to the charts because one of the things I love so much about TA is there's so many different ways to break it down. And at the end of the day, there's no real wrong way. I mean, there's certainly a wrong way to apply certain tools. But if you find a way to consistently bang out a edge 50, 60, 70% win rate or 30% win rate with a really high risk reward ratio, whatever your style, there's no real wrong way to go about making money as long as you're making it over time consistently. So we're going to dive into that soon. In just a moment, I want to invite him in here while we fill up the lobby. I just want to say good afternoon to the Andy Matt. We've got Soheil, who is very curious to know if Koroush is Persian. So we'll be sure to ask him that when he gets on here. Jim Reardon, good to have you here live, and DS and Lumaria. Welcome, guys. Welcome to the studio. And if you are over on TradingView, I see you and appreciate you coming to join us. So hit us up in the chat if you guys have any questions for myself or Koroush today. Can I just click through to my Periscope here? Make sure I see the chat there. I sometimes ignore it by accident. All right, we're great. We're live on Twitter as well. So good to see you guys dropping by. Real quick, I'm just going to pull up a couple of charts to get over this weekend. Share screen? Yeah, share screen. Couple of things. ETH BTC. Something really important happened with ETH BTC this weekend. So before we get into our discussion and get Koroush in here to pull up the charts, I just want to highlight one particular candle pattern, I should say, that is on the ETH Bitcoin chart. It's one of my favorite ones. It's pretty rare to see, and it's a good, strong signal. I really like it. And it's called the Empire Fractal. It's a 3-bar fractal. And we just got that here. Okay, it's where you have a down bar, then a doji where the low of the wick is the lowest of all three, and then you have an up bar after that closes above the wick high of the first bar. This is an Empire Fractal, and it works both ways, bullish and bearish. That's really nice to see in the midst of this consolidation on Ethereum, Bitcoin. And that is basically the highlight of what I've been watching this weekend. And so, of course, if you zoom in after that prints, I'm not going to run and buy the high of that close. It's nice and bullish. I'm now bullish on Ethereum, Bitcoin right here, but I can still get in at a level that I like, which actually just came in this morning, right down here at the sweet spot. So if I'm looking to get long on this, this is a great spot for it for myself. But I'm not that concerned with what ETH BTC is doing as far as like trading that pair. I don't really trade that pair that much. What I'm excited about is this right here with the ETH dominance rising wedge hitting into this bearish throwback. I am watching this wedge. I mean, if this thing breaks up, cool. Bitcoin's going to have some fun. ETH BTC is going to roll over. Some alts are going to take a hit. But we are at this critical level right now. Could not be more excited to see where this breaks. I mean, of course, it could just bleed out the end and be super boring. But my guess is we're going to get a move out of here fairly aggressively one way or the other. So it is a big week here in crypto. And, Bitcoin is just teasing the highs again. And you can see here on the 3-day, there is a nice level here at 20,600. So if it breaks 20K, be careful with that level. That is a Gann horizontal along with a 1618 extension from the 2019. I'm really excited to see if this breaks up, how it breaks up, and if we're going to end up with some sort of breakout like we had here back in May, where it just like shot up and then got rejected real quickly and consolidated even more. That's actually something I kind of expect to happen. But these are a couple of things that I'm watching in the market right now. Of course, you can see the power of the Gann horizontals right here at work. And so we're going to unpack all this. But without any more delays, I really want to get to our special guest today. We've got our lobby up to a healthy 35 viewers, which was our goal, just to get in, let a few people get in here before we get to the good stuff. Um, Crypto I, welcome to the show. We got Genealogy, always a pleasure to see you, and Max DeMarcos, good to have you, and Kuntz. It says, Ethereum ever going to 1K, or do I have to stay at my job? Well, I own a number of Wix contracts that say Ethereum 1K by March 26. So I'm with you, Kuntz, and I really hope it gets there. Jim Reardon asking a question about the 20-week SMA. Okay, so we're going to get to the questions in that. I really want to focus on our guest today. So now that we're sort of locked and loaded and ready to go, we're going to flip over here. I'll get back to the studio. And welcome to the show, Koroush. How are you today?
I'm feeling great. Thank you so much for having me. This is exciting. The audience seems very engaged.
Yeah, no, we've got a really good, strong sort of base audience as we just really started up our YouTube in July, and obviously Nick and I have been doing this stuff for quite a while, but never really on YouTube, and so it's just excited to get like a regular sort of group here. I recognize most of the names here in the chat, and they're they're really enjoying it. And in fact, my favorite part is a lot of the time, the pairs I'm trading are from ideas that came up on stream from other people. So, you know, they line them
Oh,
up,
really?
and it's a nice synergy there. Yeah.
How interesting. It was fun seeing your trading style. I hadn't seen that before. You've got a lot of lines on your chart. Definitely looking at multiple different things over there. I've never actually used Gann for my trading or tested it.
Nice. Well, you know what? It's a tricky thing to trade directly. I find, the Gann square looks really complicated. It's just more of an interest thing for me. High time frame analysis stuff, sort of like, oh, maybe there's a short here. Oh, and look at that. We're coming to a big Gann level. Watch out, kind of thing.
So I had
Yeah.
Jack Sparrow, who I know you guys had last week on the podcast, and he said the exact same thing with Gann. He's like, he doesn't really use it to trade, more like a macro overview that works really well in confluence with a lot of other stuff.
Exactly, yeah. So I would look at that high time frame level, and I wouldn't necessarily just stick a short on it, but I might zoom in and think about, okay, here's an area where I'm now thinking about the end of the move instead of like catching a continuation or whatever. But it is fascinating, like regardless of how exactly I've made money off it, which I don't know that I can say I have directly. It is really fascinating. I mean, you just take two pivots and it kicks out this massive extrapolation, and then you just watch price like playing with it. It's just fascinating. So for me, it's more of a pet project. But when you get up into the 20K plus, there's no support resistance, right? You're looking at trend line extensions, you're looking at fib extensions, or you can play with the Gann a little bit. So
We really don't have much to work with there. And funny you
yeah,
said the 26 area. I was looking more at the 24, 25 area, which really is the same. And there's not that much to go on there. So
is
anyone's
that
guess.
20,400, or are you thinking like 24, 25K?
24, 25K. Yeah, definitely
Okay.
upside. It's upside. I would
Oh
definitely
yeah,
know
I know.
24,
Yeah. So
25K is the same.
this horizontal is actually sitting at like 20,600. So it would
Oh,
actually
20,600. Interesting.
Yeah. So I mean, that's just this one that I'm looking at because it's confluent with the 618 fib extension, which is actually a
Hmm.
much more reliable level, I think. So just, if I mean, we should really pull up charts for this, but basically, if we're going to be thinking about May of this year, there's like that nice fractal everyone's seeing where price is kind of behaving that way, where we had a big trend and then it smacked down and then it's just been chopped. If we're going to do something like that, the next thing to happen would be a big move upside that just gets smacked down. So what it's worth, there is a level at 20,600, but we'll see. It's really hard through this chop to call the next big move. Everyone's like, oh, it's going to be
100%.
14K, it's going to be 22K. Like for now, it's just chop, and I think it's consolidation, and I think we needed that, and I'm just kind of excited to see where it breaks out and what we can trade in the meantime, if we need to be trading. I don't even know. So,
Yeah.
what are you looking at these days as we get through? Because this is difficult trading for a lot of people. There's a high emotions in the market right now, up at the all
Oh,
time
yeah.
highs. We've just come so far. Are we going to break down? What are you doing to sort of, or not doing? Perhaps over trading is something that a lot of people are doing. I know. How are you approaching this consolidation phase?
For sure. Can I pull up a chart to
Hell
help
yeah.
aid the
Yeah, the gear
explanation?
the gear top right should give you a share and then I would recommend share window, so you get a few tabs if you have a couple.
Yeah.
And just
So I
double
don't have
check.
the option to share window. Oh, yeah, it just says share screen.
Yeah, shared
But
screen, and then when that'll pop up something, and
right,
then
right, right.
application window actually is the one you want.
Share
Um,
screen, application window, charts.
and
Beautiful.
hey, you fit into this studio setup so beautifully. I know you said
Nice.
green screen, and that's beautiful.
Okay, nice. Well, so we've got a few key levels I was looking at and have been looking at for a little while. And if we just zoom it back here. So when we got to around this third test over here, I think most analysts, at least that I know, were feeling quite bearish. So we had this big test over here, then it got weaker again. It got weaker again. And yes, the upside also started trending up. But given we are in an uptrending market, I'm much more focused on how much of the upwards momentum we're keeping rather than looking at the demand side over here. So seeing that supply just come down, down, down over here, kind of had me feeling a little bit bearish. And I posted this on Twitter and it was not well received. See, when you get to like a certain point on Twitter, no one wants to see you say anything bearish. Even if you see like a beautiful short setup
Yeah.
with two great invalidations, like either of these highs you can take as an invalidation, assuming that the market's going to come down a bit, even targeting this 18,600 level. And then if we lose this, you expect further downside, obviously. Doesn't work because if you're right, people are mad because you shorted or you were bearish. If you're wrong, people are mad because, well, you shorted and you, sorry, if you're right, people are mad. Wait, if you're wrong, people get a little upset because, well, you were short and they were right.
Yeah.
But
How dare you
analysis,
sell?
but yeah, so the actual analysis the price started coming down, and definitely I was bearish at this point, all the way down. And even here on this retest back up, I stayed bearish and I was expecting like, I'm very much a momentum trader. And over here, because I mean, the simplest way to look at the chart is we haven't had much but pure upside over here. And the last time we saw any sort of support present itself was back here. So one fail. And I feel when the momentum builds as much as it does, people are a lot more sensitive to the price falling down than when it's more of a neutral market. So they almost become accustomed to the chop the more it goes on. So right now, we got to a point where this is favoring the downside to me, because we haven't got to the chop yet. It's just a clean trend coming back down. And I was actually expecting continuation. I did not think we'd be able to come back up like this. So at this point, my short was closed out. I didn't have another play. I wasn't brave enough to take this short over here. And the logical play to me was either another short or nothing. And you mentioned it before. This is an area where I won't overtrade because we've just had a lot of price action over here, a lot of price action in an area which a lot of people were watching, and we're coming up to the third test of what will become the all-time high. So I wasn't brave enough to go in for the long over here. This short was what I played. And then going up right now, I kind of watched this move. This was quite a beautiful entry if you got up over here, simply because you broke this key level. And if you wanted to go for a breakout play, this is where I see there would have been potential. And I actually know a few people who caught that very nicely. And then the next option was a short over here. Again, not something I wanted to do, given it wasn't an obvious play to me. So where am I right now? What am I actually planning on doing? And you said 2,600, which I haven't actually looked at all. And I actually measured it as you said it to see how far up that is, which is about 6% from where we will be over here. My next play is actually looking for the upwards momentum to continue. And that is once this level breaks. So I'm going to look for a retest or a breakout past this 19,400 level. To the downside,
It's tricky
nothing really.
because there's quite a bit of downside here where we stay bullish, right? All the way down to basically 18.6 is like a retest.
Yeah.
So it is a tricky place to long for me as far as like, if we pull back to 18.6, I might be hunting that, but
see, that's why we need like a lot of confluence. That's why I really like the short when we saw this just loss of strength over here.
Yeah.
That made me really comfortable looking for a short, especially if you were watching the trend line as well at this point. Just remembered that was looking pretty great. No, keep you. Where's the darn trend line tool? There we go. So yeah, most trend lines you could have drawn looking over here were very much lost. And that, so loss of trend line, confluence with this just shrinking price or just increase in resistance over here, just price getting weaker and weaker, seemed like a beautiful short play. And then besides that, like you said, it's really tricky right now because we've seen that play. Now it's likely to be choppy. We're not just going to crash right back down. Well, it's not probable to me or obvious in the charts that we're going to crash back down. So it leaves us with no easy shorts till we get under maybe 18,250, probably more realistically 7,700. So hopefully we don't just go side to side, but I'm pretty happy taking a back seat with the incredible trending year we had because I told you I'm looking for trends. I don't do well in chop. I know most people don't, but I'm quite aware of it. So I'm not trying to get anything in this area over here. Ideally, I want to see us break above here or see what the price data brings in. What are you looking at right now over here?
Yeah, that's actually you said something there that spoke to me, and it's funny because I'm learning actually that I am a better range trader or chop trader, so to speak, than a trend trader. And when it starts to trend, it blows up my reload zones or never visits them. And I actually have to now adapt because we've been in this consolidation and chop type market for so long. John, if you want to flip over to my screen, we've been, through the bear market is where I really kind of cut my teeth as a trader, so to speak. Was more like random newbie speculator back in 2017. And so all the trading that I've done and as I've been learning, has been in this kind of market where it's up, down, up, down, up, down. And you get a lot of these, what I call reload zones, with the FIBs. But then when you break into a trend, you get left behind. And it's really hard to, for me at least this year, to adapt. So like right here, you had a nice base, a nice breakout. So I'm looking at this reload zone typically to trade, but then, you get up here and I've got I've got a little short reload zone. I'm looking, this is the short reload zone. Oh, but it got blown up. So, it's funny because like you said, a lot of people get chopped up in the consolidation phase because they're so used to the trend, right? So it's like buy each dip and just ride it, ride it, ride it. Or if it's a downtrend, you're selling all the bounces, but then you get, everyone's so used to that. And then you get these big smackdowns. And so when I see a huge drop like this after a really strong trend, I expect that the market will be kind of shocked into consolidation, so to speak. And that's actually something I really kind of picked up on this year. So give you an example, and this is why I mentioned this, what I guess you could call fractal, but it was similar to this. And a lot of people I know, I'm seeing this a lot on Twitter, and a lot of people are looking at this as sort of a map for what we might be dealing with right now. And that's where, you get this uptrend, it's nice and strong. Ooh, blast off, really exciting. And then smackdown. And so once this smackdown happens, there's a lot of uncertainty in the market. Oh shit, are we trending? Are we going to flip? Are we going to go up? Are we going to go down? And so you get traders jockeying for position. And that's actually this new setup I've developed called Fib Pong, which is a fun name to say the least. And it's basically you follow that smackdown. So, the big drop. And so you just draw your fib up and then you start thinking about shorts here. And then you trade those shorts to the new fib that's drawn the opposite way. And so you get your short, you close it up, you get back long. And then you draw that range. And you take this long up into that. And you end up with this triangle that gets tighter and tighter and tighter. And so since I've kind of been thinking about that, it's been working great. And then, like I said, when you get back into the trending market, it's really tricky to trade with that setup. So long story short, this is what I'm looking at right now. That smackdown, thinking, okay, we're going to ride back up here. It actually exceeded any kind of short zone, swept all these highs. And so, drawing up this range, and I speculated that perhaps we were going to get some kind of alt window here because one of the things that I do consistently is look at this chart, which is my Bitcoin dominance. And if you can identify the trend in dominance, for me, I don't know if how many altcoins you trade or if you trade them versus Bitcoin or versus USD. But if you're trading Bitcoin versus altcoins, you want to be with the trend, right? Because if Bitcoin starts rallying like this, altcoins are getting wrecked. You're losing Bitcoin. Maybe your altcoins are, on par with USD, but that's boring because you're missing the entire bull market. So we're back into this risk on window, right? We've kind of had this big sharp uptrend as Bitcoin spiked through the last couple months, and then ETH BTC woke up and it broke this thing down, and now we're just squeezing up in this sort of rising wedge on dominance. So this break here should give us a really clear picture, I think, of what to expect. Yeah.
Do you look at or do you incorporate market sentiment at all? And by market sentiment, I mean your feel of what is going on in the market right now into your trading.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah. I actually love that stuff. My background in school was in psychology. So, I mean, I'm more of a
Very nice
market psychology thing. I studied TA for a couple of years at rationalinvestor.com, and that kind of shifted me a little more towards the TA. But yeah, no, my bread and butter was always like, Jack talks about that a lot. When his tweets start getting lit up with like hyperboles near the top, and they start calling him an idiot because he's closing his long that he had open from 4,000, and
yeah,
just like at 4,000 when everyone was calling him an idiot because we were definitely going to 2. And so when he actually has this kind of sense of like when things get really aggressive, he starts to go like he DM me. He's like, dude, we're close to the top based purely on how much I'm being attacked.
You'd be amazed how accurate that is, and how many people I know with large followings that literally use Twitter as a sentiment check. So they post something just to gauge the reaction of the audience. And to bring sentiment into what you were just saying with the potential alt season, while we've had a pump here or there, and we've actually seen a lot of the DeFi blue chips running, we haven't seen anything which either of us would call an alt season, correct?
Definitely not.
And I think the reason for that is just the fear. There's still so much hope that we can get to all-time highs and that Bitcoin can run. And at this point, the market is just conditioned to know that when Bitcoin runs, nothing else does well. So with so much hope and possibility, and I saw you like the FIBs. I'm also a huge fan of the FIBs, especially in an uptrend and in a trending market. I love how they work so well for you in a trading ranges and stuff as well.
Yeah.
But we just had a perfect 618 bounce so price has gone up, smack down, as you like to call it. I like that a lot. Then we come back up. We make a slightly higher high, which obviously is really ugly, to then come back down into a slow consolidation, but then bring the 618 in here. And now who's going to want to go hard into alts when Bitcoin's just had a 618 bounce and it's going straight into resistance? There's too many arguments that suggest that we could see some sort of major break to the upside, which, like you said, who knows what happens over here. Personally, I'm fine to take the loss on a SPAC down at the level you pointed at, say 2,600. You take a SPAC down, I don't know, I break even, depends how I exit my position, or I take a loss. But then you take a look at the upside potential. What if we don't SPAC down? What if Bitcoin does its Bitcoin things? That's what I've been trying to, exactly. That's what I want to catch. That's what I want to be in a good seat for. And I'm willing to take a few losses to get that. And that could be bad. That definitely could be bad because I was lucky, partially luck, partially intuition. I didn't try to do that here because these looked like they were weakening to me. If we go to the 4-hour, none of these looked like a strong breakout, not even close. So I didn't go for that play, but I know.
Yeah, well, I was going to say the volume on this push up is not that inspiring just yet either.
100%. So there are a few, there's multiple ways you can look at this and think the breakout isn't here and this isn't the spot to long. But I know a lot of people that didn't even care about that. They're like, the probability is so low, but the upside is so high that they're willing to just get chopped again and again over here, trying to catch that upside move. It's such a tense, exciting thing to trade because there's so much potential reward over here. And it is one of those once in a lifetime type opportunities with regards to Bitcoin, for example, because who knows how many more of these parabolic crypto bubbles, I mean, that's a dangerous word, but bubbles we have left. And how are we going to, no one knows if they're going to catch the next giant trending market, because to some degree, this is one of the craziest things that's happened in the 2000s in markets. Like, the money that is being printed in crypto is unlike anything I've ever seen before. The inefficiencies in these markets, manual arbitrage, like, people are making millions through manual arbitrage. Less so now because it's a lot more saturated. But yeah, I'm ranting a bit. Do stop me if I go too long.
No, it's funny because you said people are literally printing money, and Nick and I have caught on to this dollar protocol that literally is just doing that right now through its like first rebase expansion. It's actually funny. I tried to explain it to my family on the weekend. I was like, yeah, no, you just post your liquidity here, for the event, and then it gives you USD, which are trading at like $2 right now, so it's like double, and then you just pull your liquidity and go back to this or the farming that, and they're like, wait, so you just get like money in your wallet? I'm like, yeah, it's really weird. It sounds like a scam. It sounds like it couldn't be real. But I just transferred it over to Bittrex today and flipped it to USD and withdrew it to my bank just to prove to myself that it actually is real. So I agree with you. I mean, there's so much opportunity right now, but as you were speaking, you were kind of speaking to what I'm talking about with the psychology thing here, which is interesting. John, if you want to flip back. So Bitcoin, through this big uptrend, has captured our imagination, right? I mean, altcoins were very sexy this summer, right up until basically this drop from 12,000 on Bitcoin, and that kind of marked the local top for a lot of altcoins as well. And then of course now it's like, well, if you're not long Bitcoin and you're holding a bunch of altcoins, you're a loser, and that's just the sentiment that takes over. And we see that in the cycles, and it's really well visualized on a chart like this. And so I guess what I'm going to get to here is the market has this way of drawing your attention to the wrong place at the wrong time. In other words, right here, it was all eyes on Bitcoin. Oh my God, we're going to break to new highs. I know a lot of people were very excited. They were longing right here at the end of May on that breakout, and then it gets chopped down. And what it did after this little uptrend kind of grabbed everyone's attention is it just moved sideways for like an eye bleeding amount of time. I mean, in crypto, when you talk about, April to mid-July, that is a long time, right? There's so much going on every day.
Centuries.
It's centuries. Yeah. And so it's like your eyes are just bleeding. You're so bored, and everyone just loses the flavor for trying to figure out when Bitcoin's going to break. And as soon as it completely falls asleep for about 2 weeks here, nice big new uptrend. And during this was a lot of altcoin accumulation. There wasn't an alt season, for example, necessarily, but they were starting to move into the beginning of July, and then actually the DeFi bubble really took off here. Point being that these things start slow, and then they pick up, and then they bore you a bit, and then it's down here, it's down the end of the move that you get sort of maybe what you might call an alt season. So I don't know what's going to happen here. Nobody does, obviously, but my speculation is that, and like you said, and I can hear the excitement in your voice, you're saying, well, there's this big move coming for Bitcoin, and I want to be a part of that. And I'm with you. I want to also. But after this big drop, after this big smackdown, as I like to say, this to me is the beginning of like a long reverberated consolidation, which kind of lines up with end of year boredom. And, so anyways, I'm looking at altcoins. I'm seeing a lot of, this kind of stuff where we've just had these long downtrends, and then we're just kind of putting in sort of W bottoms, seeing the volume stepping in on the buy side. Another example here on Cody, that kind of thing where it's just boring as hell. And here's the nice thing too. Like, I love that you take shorts and that you're not afraid to tweet about them, because that's one of the things Nick and I kind of pride ourselves on. We are not a Moon Boy channel. If things look bad, we'll just say, this looks like shit, don't long that. Like, that just looks awful. An example of that would be like this came across the entire, altcoin space through August and September. And so, what are you even streaming about for the last 2 months? Well, certainly not talking about longing altcoins. In fact, we were taking a lot of shorts, and it's not popular. And you get people that will hate on it, and our following might grow faster if we just said things like Bitcoin to 30K by May, like, but, so I appreciated that. So I guess, to wrap that thought up, if we break out here and go crazy, my altcoins, if I'm in any right now, I think I'm in like 2. they'll get stopped out, and I'll be back into Bitcoin and we'll roll. But I would not be shocked if this just continues until that thing you were just talking about changes. That sort of like expectation that Bitcoin is the thing and it's going to blow up. Maybe we need to wait until that excitement leaves the market again after a month or two of sideways boredom and total torture for traders. That's what I expect. And, you know, it's a probability thing though, so I could be wrong. And in some ways, I hope I am, because it's not the sexiest, most fun way to think about it.
Yeah, Colin, if I could actually comment on that, because I like what you said. If I could get the chart back, please. I won't use it much, just really helps the visual.
No.
So I fully agree with you that after this SmackDown, myself, I actually had a podcast with Chao Wang. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, but really successful in the DeFi space, well known in crypto. He's one of the original team for Mazari. Awesome guy. And both him and I were talking
kind of picture on Twitter.
Yeah, I think it's kind of purple. Yeah, but
I follow him.
He's talking about after how we saw the SmackDown over here. He was convinced with absolute certainty, having been like living and breathing this market for a while, that this led to exactly what you said, which is the sideways consolidation. And I kind of agree with you. I do think that this does mean the market's going to cool off. The trend is going to calm down a bit. But here's why it doesn't actually matter to me, because I've got my key levels. I know what I'm watching, and I highly doubt a situation where the market chops up like this. Like, that's not what consolidation looks like. So however long it takes is fine. I'm just going to keep adjusting my key breakout level, which I'm watching, and eventually I'll be right. And as long as I manage that risk and I know from back-tested data what my probabilities are there, it doesn't matter how long we consolidate for, because we're not going to consistently test the extremities of that move within that consolidation. So this can break up tomorrow. It can break up in February next year. Wherever it wants to break up, that's fine. I just know what triggers I'm looking for. So that's why, while I fully agree with you, it's not on my radar. I don't care how long it takes. I'm just looking for my
and that's actually exactly kind of how I'm playing this right now with this chart I've got, where I just put, you know, if we break above 20K, I'm back to Bitcoin, I'm back to ETH. You know, if we break below 16.2, holy shit, you know, the wheels are going to fall off for a little bit. Maybe, honestly, I don't think for long, probably like a week or two, a nasty sell off, and then, you know, shake a bunch of people out, and then we're right back up here in a few weeks. But the key is, it's trading those key levels. And so, whereas you're sort of saying, okay, you know, when these key levels break in whichever direction, I will catch that trade. And it sounds like you're pretty focused on futures, like margin, kind of leverage trading the majors, is my guess. Is that correct?
Yes, that didn't actually used to be the case. I actually used to do a lot more of the alt focus trading. But when we had that period in late 2018, early 2019, I'm not sure it's the exact period, but volume died so hard that liquidity was non-existent. I was getting slippage on 50K positions, like slippage that made my trading systems unprofitable. And while that's no longer the case, now it's got the volume to handle larger positions. I didn't want to dedicate thousands of hours to learning the ebbs and flows of a market that I didn't think had longevity. But when I look at Bitcoin, and that's my favorite to trade, right now, I've definitely dabbled in a bit of the DeFi coins simply because the trends are too strong to ignore. But majoritarily, it'll be Bitcoin, it'll be Ethereum. And I actually have been enjoying Chainlink quite a lot this year as well, because I see the longevity there. I know with these assets, it's not going to go to like untradable amounts for almost the entire year.
Yeah, and I noticed that you like Link quite a bit, and I mean that trend is insane. I mean, you know, talk about like getting left behind with my reload zone approach. There was no reload zones to speak of high time frame for Link. It just never came back, and that's okay. Like, one of the things I love about shifting from sort of a moon boy to a trader is that there's really no bags that I'm not worried about. Like, there's definitely a few where I'm like, God, that looks so strong, like Polkadot. You know, Ren, there's a couple that I'm like, okay, I definitely want to have a bag of that. And I would be a little sad if I missed it, because I just know in my mind that it's going to be one of the ones. But Link is up there too. And, you know, I'm waiting on Link still. If it comes back, it comes back. That's great. But this, yeah, I mean, this is tricky trading here. And so while I want to catch these ranges, I think every day the Bitcoin trades within this range, we're going to see more boldness towards altcoins. And we're starting to get that with, like a shy breakout on Cody last week. Okay, now we're picking up, some more volume. And these kinds of trends where we shift, between alts being sexy and it's a risk on window, and then it's like alts being broken and it's a risk off window, those shifts take time. And it's so hard. Like, that's the thing too, I'll never sit here and be like, this is what you need to do, this is how it's going to go, because I could make a case where like altcoins just get left behind indefinitely and Bitcoin just becomes this monstrous world-class asset and trillions of dollars of market cap, and altcoins just don't keep pace. I could see that very easily, to be honest. But I could also see a case where they just kind of ebb and flow together back and forth throughout a Bitcoin bull run. And you end up seeing, insane gains and possibly more asymmetric gains in altcoins. I could see both. And for now, I just got to trade my plan, which is, we're in the risk on window. We're up at this high, really nice invalidation level here for altcoins. And so, I'm taking a look at them. Interestingly enough, as much as I'm talking about them right now, I'm not even in a whole bunch of altcoins. I'm charting them and I'm seeing more and more of these breakouts, but I'm actually not in a whole lot of them. Now that I say that, I mean, DOT was one of the favorites I'm watching. It just kind of made new lows versus Bitcoin. Not that exciting. It's going to need some time. Same thing with Ren, just kind of trending down. Not that exciting. So for all this talk of me loving altcoins right now, I'm speculating that there is a window here that could be growing and building, but I actually don't have too many big positions. I think,
I
Tomo
actually did a live stream on that earlier. I do agree that it's not the best time to start building, or not building, trading altcoins intensively. Oh, you guys can see my link chart. Yeah, so for altcoins right now, the play is more fundamental. If you think that going into 2021, that we are at the cusp of a bull run and we may see this sideways action, which I actually agree with you. I do think the highest probability thing is a cool off of the trend. Maybe if we're lucky, the price comes down before we see continuation of what we've had. Then the best play is to position yourself. And where do I like to position myself? Well, there's a reason I like Link so much. One, for trading, it's great. The trend is fantastic. The community has great memes. Let's not forget about that. But then we've got the other side of Link, which is, well, it's a big player in DeFi. Link is really linked to the linked to the DeFi space. It's a fast mover oracle. There's a lot of fundamental reasons. It's got so many partnerships that Link is really important to the DeFi space. So by getting Link exposure, you're getting kind of this low risk DeFi exposure. Same with Ethereum. Like, while Bitcoin is my primary positioning, Link and Ethereum play a beautiful role in there as well. And then also, when the specific altcoins, like you've pointed out, aren't looking fantastic, then why wouldn't you be focusing on some sort of DeFi index? We've got so many options out there right now. Build those DeFi index positions and position yourself as an investor until the market conditions become what you want to trade, rather than trying to force those trades.
Yes. Patience and not just patience, like wait a few days for it to come into your zone, but like maybe waiting weeks or months. And so, I'm remiss to say that I'm hunting for an alt season right now, because in my heart, I think I know that we need more time. I think, generally speaking, like, let's look. I mean, SIS is a perfect example. It's more of an old generation coin, so like, but like, this is what a bottom looks like. And when you put in a really long consolidation like that, I mean, remember, this is like a daily. So for anyone watching, like, this is weeks of upside, and you're like, it's alt season, and then it's just shit. Then it screws you over, right? And then it's weeks of upside, and then it's like, nah. And then it's a huge breakout. Oh, it's alt season. Nope. Oh, new lows. And then, when you've lost, again, all taste for any altcoins, you get like 16x or whatever it is, right? So I am hesitant to then turn around and say, like, we're going to have an alt season from right here, because there's just a lot that needs to be cleaned up, especially on this chart. And another good example of that could be one of my favorite coins from January, just simply because I happened to buy this because of a setup here before the Google announcement. I was like, oh my God, HBAR. But look how long this chart has to clean up. I mean, anyone who was buying up here saying, well, it's going to be a strong thing, I'll hold, they just missed an entire year of opportunity waiting for the chart to clean up. And as it often does, it's right back down pretty much to its breakout levels. And so is it going to just start mooning again from the second it gets to this level? Probably not. So with what I'm looking at right now is less about alt season, which is to me just kind of a misleading word, right? So I put some question marks there. I just want to make sure. I think we could get an alt window, right? Where, it's not new highs. We're not going crazy, but like, let's get a little bearish retest right up here. That's like, what is that? Like 80% move. So I could see that. Again, I'm not racing into these because I've learned the hard way, like getting in too soon. Like you see through even here on VET, right? That was quite a big, long kind of consolidation until it finally exploded. So yeah, no, I'm with you on that. I think in general, I'm being a little more patient than perhaps some of my tweets let on. Because, bottom line is though, if you're loading up into a zone like this as a trade and your stop loss is down here and your upside is maybe like a test to this breakdown level, that's a sweet trade. Maybe 1% risk is what I'm looking at. Sometimes I talk on the stream, we talk about even 0.5% and 0.25% risks until you get like a much more pronounced bottom or like stronger signals, right? But I'll take 5.5 to 1 any day.
Are you trading full time, Colin?
I am, yeah. I'm working in the space full time. So like a lot of the stuff I do is actually analysis, and the kind of running joke on the stream is that half the things I put setups on, I don't even trade because I just don't have time or I forget and I miss a lot of my own setups. Guys will be messaging me like, oh man, that coin smacked, man. Great call. And I'm like, oh, sweet. I did not trade that. So I'm actually more of an analyst, I think, than a trader, although I do trade, regularly. But
I love that you're very open about it because it's very frowned upon in the space. If someone does analysis and doesn't trade as much, but foolishly, I think, because if what you're doing is delivering value, then power to you, keep doing it. And obviously you do trade as well. And that's why when you said the 0.25%, I suspected you might be more of a heavier trader, simply because I try to be very deliberate with the ROI on time when I'm trading. That's also another reason which I didn't really touch on, where I moved away from trading those altcoins. I'm looking for trades where I can get decent size in and maximum ROI on my time. Whereas if I was entirely trading and not doing anything else on the side, I would absolutely be looking for those 0.25%, 0.5%. In fact, I'd never heard the 0.25% before. So definitely respect for you hitting up those trades wherever you can find them.
It sounds absurd, but here's the thing. Risk management is about controlling emotions. Obviously, it's about preserving capital, but like, if you're in a position that makes you uncomfortable, you're going to mistrade it, right? You know this. You've probably taught this in one of your courses, and we talk about this all the time. And what happened to me this year was a blessing, and that is that my account ballooned through the summer. And, from January, I think probably like 1,600%. So when I risk 1%, it's emotional. Like that's a lot of money now, 1% risk. And I'm looking at a P&L of like whatever it is, like a couple of thousand. I'm like, holy shit, that's like a month's salary at my old job. Like I'm not ready for that yet. So I noticed that in some of my trades because I was getting into these really nice positions. I would say like, I shorted Bitcoin at 19.6, and I closed it. I closed it a little bit early. I was shorting it. After this big drop, we came up into my short reload zone. If you zoom in, there was even a tinier short reload zone. So I had this big fat short on, and then I closed it like here, even though I was at such a sweet invalidation level. That would have been a great hedge to just hold on. But, I had a 1.5% risk on my account for it. And it was clearly like something I had to keep staring at. So yeah, when I say 0.25%, that was the thing we talked about over a month ago, where I just said, look, sometimes it's, you want to risk, manage risk to a percentage, but you also want to do it to an emotional level. So you just like, don't even look. And you don't need to look. Like, I don't care if I lose 0.25% at all. I don't even sweat, right? It's boring. But 1%, 2%, and 3%, I start to go, holy fuck, that suddenly feels like a lot of money right now. So I am in a bit of a risk off in general, and it is slow and steady. And if we break up from here and we get some trends going again, I might get a little more aggressive. But
Because that's just going to make you so much more money in the long term as well. The self-awareness of where you're comfortable. I think that's the best way to scale a portfolio. It's to start at a flat risk and look at it in absolute numbers. You don't always have to be compounding your gains in percentages. I changed the chart to XRP to make it more exciting. It was on Link for a while.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, so you don't have to keep again and again compounding up. You can actually decide, hey, I'm happy making $500 a trade, $1,000 a trade, 10,000, 100,000, whatever it is for you. When you find that point which you're comfortable, you don't need to keep infinitely scaling it up. You can just enjoy the art and craft of trading, which this is something I say as well quite a lot. If you don't enjoy trading, what on earth are you doing here? There is so much more higher ROI skills you can develop in half the time for 3 times the reward with not even close to as much risk. So find that comfort point psychologically, and also edge in the market, because there's definitely a difficulty curve. The larger your position sizes get, the harder it becomes to trade, not just psychologically, but literally in the market. Liquidity becomes an issue even when you're trading the largest of crypto, especially on lower time frames. Swing traders don't have that much of that issue, but if you're scalping on the 1 hour and you're trying to get 7-figure positions filled, that's going to be always a difficulty.
And that's, again, a bit of a blessing and a curse has been one of the lessons I learned this year with just some of my scalpier. You get into these really tight 15-minute short reload zones, you're looking at a 0.02% or 0.2% loss on the position. So you can take, this big size where I'm suddenly opening a position that is like $500,000. I'm like, holy fuck. But then if it stops out, you're like, oh, that was $800 in slippage. Holy shit. So these kinds, I absolutely learned that this year too. And that's sort of the stuff where I'm like, okay, like maybe I need to reassess exactly how I'm progressing here. One of the things I discovered very recently, like in the last 2 weeks, is farming. It sounds like, I'm obviously way late to that party. I think yams really took off this year. I never really got it. I never really understood it until recently. And so I'm actually pretty comfortable right now with a lot of my funds just in like stablecoin ETH. And then I'm just like looking around at different places to park that. Even, somebody, and this is actually the guest we have on, so it's a semi plug for next Monday, but he got on the call. He said, look, like I take my position, I go in, I find a sexy new farm play that's come out, like a new dot finance. It's got a high APY. I send it off to like my guy and he audits it on the spot for like $500. And if it's a good to go and the APY is over like 3,000, I just smash it and I just put it in. And by the end of the day, I've made like
say 3,000.
What's up?
3,000 APY.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Some of these like shitty little farm things come out, right? And the APYs are so high right when they launch. And then of course you see those food tokens essentially like they just wash out because everyone's farming them and selling them, farming them, selling them. But in the first day or two, and this is what he's described. So, I mean, this is his story. I'll let him tell it next week. But in that first day or two, you can stick it in at 3 or whatever thousand APY. He says anything over 1,000 is good for him. And then if you break that down to like, what's your APY on the day? It's like 10, 40, 90%. And then he just pulls his liquidity and he's like, okay, so I just made a trade and it's essentially like a 60% winner. And it's on a huge position. I was like, dude, that makes sense to me. I was like, now you've described it in a way where you're just trading, you're sticking in the liquidity, you're taking your reward and you're leaving. And if you find the right plays and you audit them and you can avoid as much of the rug stuff, I think he got hit by pickle, but other than that, he's been pretty good. It's mind blowing. I mean, we're talking about 6 figures though, that's the tricky thing, right? I mean, I think it's all relative. So if you just put in less, you get less. But the whales and the way these guys are moving in and out of these positions, and then of course it's compounding, right? So you make some of that money and your next position is going to be larger, and of course the ongoing risk is that you're going to get rugged, or there's going to be some kind of flash loan attack, like anything that just drains the liquidity pools or locks them, and that's terrifying to me. So until I wrap my head around it technically, I wouldn't go in with as much size as perhaps some of the more veteran guys are, but that was a new realization to me, and it was a sexy idea because instead of like win-loss P&L type shit, you're basically parking it in something that will generate a yield. In that sense, it's guaranteed. The risk, of course, is that more systemic risk, and then that's why you want to vet what you're getting into and then not stay in very long, maybe a day or two.
For sure.
So this is a new thing for me, and I'm excited to get him on next week because he's going to kind of break it down. He's pretty advanced, so my goal will be to dissect it in a way that we can all digest it. But yeah, we'll see how it goes.
I'll make sure to tune into that. Colin, what are timings looking like for the rest of the show right now?
Yeah, well, how's your time? We usually cap it just around an hour, just a little over. I want to make sure we get to the questions. Are you tight on time for the capping at the hour?
I've got a meeting coming up, and I also need to get my newsletter out. But I'm happy to take some questions, like quick fire, to end the show on like a nice note.
Yeah, that'd be great. I just noticed it's come to an hour, man. Conversation is flowing beautifully.
Yeah, it was great.
Really enjoyed having you on. It's flown by. I've got some questions here in the chat. So if you guys have any quick ones you want to fire off, we can take a look. Let's look down here. Yep. So Heel, very active in the chat today. Says CT is a madhouse right now. I must agree. Yeah, maybe we'll switch over to the screen here. If you guys have any questions, I already know I'm going to have to try to re-invite you back on here, man. I think we're going to have a lot of our guests. Hopefully we can like just cycle back through. I absolutely loved sort of this discussion and hearing your take on the TA. And, you know, I think we're both kind of on the same page as far as this is consolidation, and we're kind of waiting on the big move. Exactly what we wait is sort of the interest point today, because we're learning something new from each other. Memes on Wheels would like to know what got you into trading in the first place.
What's up, Memes on Wheels? So the thing which got me into trading in the first place was the 2017 madness. Before that, I'd actually been investing for quite a while. I was a big believer of going for assets over liabilities, so I had a natural interest in this. I was also an entrepreneur, so crypto hit both sides of interest for me. Oh, a new investment and also a new entrepreneurial opportunity. So I dived in, and I thought passive investing is the only thing that worked. But this market was so inefficient that the most basic technical analysis was working. So I decided to put this into a systematic formula. It started working like a pilot. I had a really strict checklist at first, not like now when I bring in market sentiment and my feel and discretion of the market, which actually was probably worthless back then. But now that I have all this experience and I'm absorbed in the space, is a lot more valuable. So yeah, that's how I got involved in trading, if that answers the question.
Yeah, no, that was great. And Jim Reardon, one of our regular viewers, would like to know, where do you trade out of? He's in the US. He's not sure of a good platform on which to short the crypto majors.
Yeah. Am I okay to talk about other exchanges on here? Is that cool with you guys?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So my preferred exchange right now is Phemex. They've got a great UI, and what actually drew me to them quite a bit at the start was I love the team and also trading stop losses. No other exchange besides them had trailing stop losses, and they were such a fun, useful tool to use. And I really wanted to get them actually tested more into my systems as well, and then somewhere I could apply them without using external bots or custom-made bots, which were just a bit of a headache to trade day to day. So yeah, that's my preferred exchange and where I trade myself.
And that's PHEMEX. I've heard of that one from you, and Scott, I believe, uses it too. And I've never actually flipped over to it. I mean, I'm pretty well taken care of with where I trade, so I didn't have the need to. But I know the US is always looking for a new spot. So maybe, Jim, you might want to check that one out. Moon over Minsk says, I think he would love them. Not sure what he's referring to, but I'm sure... I don't know what I'm sure of on that.
Oh, one. I think he's asking if I tried the TixWix contracts on Hero. Now, I thought that was HXRO. I don't know what those are. Colin, maybe you could enlighten me.
Dude, you have got to check out TixWix. It is, it's a really cool product, I got to say. And I'm not, HXRO Labs technically is separate from Hero. We're obviously related, but it's a separate branch. We're more like the analysis arm. But I use TixWix here. Look, let's just take a 2-second look. I know you got to go. I'm going to, you can give me the hard stop here when you have it, but it's basically options simplified. So like in a nutshell, like a sentence, that's what I would call it. I will pull my page over. But if nothing else, it's like you're taking sports betting as well, where, you're thinking things in terms of odds, which I like. As I find options in delta and theta and all the Greeks very confusing. But for example, on day one of this launch, I bought a bunch of ETH Wix contracts. And that basically says, by this date, in this case, March 26, 2021, big options expiry date. I am betting, or I am saying that yes, price will wick, at least touch 1,000 for Ethereum. And at the time, Ethereum was trading at like, a couple $100. I think it was down here in the 300 range. So I was getting 59x odds. So I put like $300 on that. And if it, if we wick to $1,000 anytime before the end of March, I'll get like 22 grand. Although I already closed half my position because it was already up quite a bit.
Yeah.
So anyways, it's just, it's an optionality sort of platform. We just added Wi-Fi. They've got Link on there. So, it's non-US only, which from the sounds of your accent won't be an issue. But yeah, no, I'd love to go over with you sometime. It's just kind of a cool way to experience. I mean, there's so much more you can do with it. I'm doing it a misdeed, perhaps by describing it as the way I did, but hedging positions and all that stuff.
I'm looking at it right now. I love the UI. I'm getting sort of casino vibes from it as well, with the ups and downs and the sliding numbers. Actually, I don't think we have time to talk about it, but I actually used to do a lot of casino related stuff, calculated, not purely gambling, but yeah, super popular over here for a while. It was really fun.
I used to do sports handicapping as well. I had a thread and all that.
Oh, very nice.
For NHL. Yeah. So, I mean, I love the vibe of it and obviously the flashy colors, and that's how I've done charts. And it's fun, man. I gotta say, if you haven't checked it out sometime, we can always poke around on it sometime. But I think that's good for that. I don't want to keep you beyond. You've come on, it's been great. Really appreciated our chat today, and I'm actually going to extend the stream here a little bit, guys, so that we can kind of get some of the nitty gritty altcoin charts. But I don't want to, of course, keep you beyond the hour. So if there's any kind of final thoughts or things you want to drop, we usually end with a little sort of final piece. I always say, playing strength. Do you have any little takeaway mantras that you want to drop on us before you go?
Yeah, I'd love to. I'm going to quick fire a couple questions I see. Do you trade traditional markets or just crypto? No, I just trade crypto right now. I've tried traditional markets. I'm okay. I'm way better at crypto, so I stick to that. Although I do invest in traditional because I'm definitely not only crypto. Koroush, what are your thoughts on Link? Great for 2021. Right now, it's not looking too great. And yeah, what's the lowest time frame you use for scalping? 15-minute. I don't really go lower than the 15-minute anymore, although I have had systems in the past that have been purely on the 5-minute trading. So that's the quick fire questions. And my final mantra is, guys, crypto is awesome. Trading is awesome, but be careful. Make sure it's not gambling. I've seen a lot of people suffer like some serious heartache in the market, especially when it's this bullish. It's a lot easier to make money than most other markets. So people start to develop this ego and think that they're geniuses. And that's how 7-figure portfolios turn into 4 or 5-figure portfolios. I've seen it happen. Be careful out there. Learn to trade from awesome people like Colin. Thanks for having me on the show. And I would absolutely love to come back on again.
That'd be great, man. Yeah, looking forward to it. Really sound advice. I was heartbroken today to see Matrix, some kind of pre-sale that just rugged this morning. And I woke up to reading in the trading pit that a lot of people got hurt by that. And sadly, a couple of them perhaps overexposed. So really sound advice. And I've loved this conversation. And I'll be sure to reach out to you to have you back on soon.
Likewise. Bye, everyone.
All right. Take care, brother. Okay, guys, I'm going to flip back over to my chart here and let's get after it. Got a little bit of time. And so sometimes when we do the Monday, default share screen. Sometimes, let me just focus here for a sec while I find my window. Sometimes when we do the Monday guest streams, we do get into the discussion so much that, I forget about the chat or we don't get through some of the altcoins. I know some of you guys have requests. Is my bag going to go up? Is it going to go down? Is there something else I'm seeing in the market that perhaps we can all look at together and get some value out of? Don't always get to that on Mondays. So I'm happy to stay on here for a little while if you guys have some questions. And if you're here to see Koroush today and you've never been to the channel and you liked what you saw today, feel free to hit us up with a like, let us know. Smack the sub button. That's the golden buzzer for us. So if you appreciate what you've seen today and you just want to give us a sub, it's absolutely free for you. What it does to me and the team here is it lets us know that we're on the right track. So if you think we are, let us know. On Wednesday, Nick and I will be back. So you can look forward to hearing his latest takeaways from what he's seeing on the more macro levels and how he's seeing the majors. For myself, let's take a look at Ethereum. One of the tweets I put out this morning was talking about that my next sort of high time frame Ethereum chart would be out today. So let's take a look at what that looks like. So this is it. And I guess context, I should go back. Whoops. So in October, this was my view of Ethereum. And, I think we were just kind of back here, sort of more the end of November then perhaps. Okay. And we had just kind of come, all that turmoil through the beginning of September was really just a visit to the pump tracer zone. Sometimes it's very hard to see that when it's happening. It's so easy to look at it in retrospect and be like, oh yeah, just a nice easy tag of this. I remember myself right here. I was actually kind of bearish because we had a huge drop. We had just come, quite a ways. We had put in this bearish retest. So the daily was trending down. But as it turns out, we reversed right here. We did not make a lower low. Then we broke this high. So the trend then showed signs of continuation. And so, of course, right at that moment, I thought, well, we better start looking ahead. What are some objectives we're going to be looking at? And you can see here oh God, that's the pump chaser one. Where's this fib extension from? Nope. Yeah, here. So you get the low here, this previous market structure breakout. You take it up to the high, which was sort of this impulse move up, and that kicked us out a fib extension. And so I thought, okay, well, that's going to be a next area where we're probably going to head. I can draw this consolidation here from the right low to the mid high. That's going to kick us out a chaos PRZ here, potential reversal area. And then if you take the entire range of Ethereum, that is the all-time high down to the following low, and that is its own fib right here. The pump chaser zone works both ways, right? The 382 is a strong retracement area, sort of a magnet on price, even going back up after a long bearish retrace. So just like after a long bullish impulse, you can get that pullback to the 382 before continuing. In this case, as we head back up, I expect 382 to be quite a level. So I put this chart together in October to kind of illustrate. And even I had feelings of disbelief. I was like, man, that would be pretty nice, but like, I'm not going to go all in expecting that. And I traded it. I've got a lot of spot Ethereum. And, as you can see, not only did it come to that level, which I guess eventually it probably would have, but it's really fascinating to me to see that price stopped at this level. I mean, it's just living in this green box that I painted up months ago. And I only bring it up today because I only noticed it today. I was like looking through my ETH charts. I was like, holy shit, this thing's living in the box. So I put that out today on Twitter, more of an interest piece, like, hey, look at that. We found a level. So the question now is, where's next? So that's what I want to share today. So let's go check out a little chart that I put together on Ethereum today. And don't worry about the Gann thing. I know it looks terribly confusing. I can actually take it off. It's just got one level that's important to me. And that is this this Gann horizontal. That's like the one level on this chart. I mean, obviously you can see here, this Gann diagonal just stopped us in our tracks, but we're consolidating beneath it. So I think we could continue for there, but for, the sake of our brains, let's take the Gann off. I mean, you can see here from the two levels I've drawn, I mean, there's definitely a couple other levels in here that we could draw, but I see this as like a pretty solid expansion trade. I mean, not that you can necessarily like, as Nick would say, like you want to get long on the breakout of that level and then trade it to the high. But, there's probably a level here, right? Where you had this big drop down, this candle body close here on the 3-day, little consolidation here. So this might be our next stop up in the high 600s. And without that level though, this is undoubtedly the next sort of major level in my mind, which is where we put this high in. I mean, price will, in my mind, eventually get there. When it does, it's going to have some trouble. So what do we see lining up with that? Well, if you extend the most recent move in Ethereum, you get a nice fib extension zone right up here. If you draw up a chaos PRZ from this low up to the mid high, kicks all the way out to 1100. So those are sort of, they don't all align, which sometimes is the case. It just is what it is. There's another chaos PRZ from this right low to this mid, so a much higher time frame. You could see price probably getting up into these highs eventually. I mean, there's a lot of upside targets, and if you just zoom out and look at this chart, I mean, does it look like a top? Does it look toppy? It's a trick question. It doesn't look toppy, not even a little bit. It looks bottomy. And that's fascinating to think about because we're so programmed to just think that good things can't happen to us because we're in crypto. And a lot of you guys probably started in 2018, 2019, and it's just been heartbreak after heartbreak after heartbreak. But um, I am much the same. I started in 2017. I had a great first year, but I have been beaten down and I have certain bear market PTSD, and I am struggling with certain degrees of disbelief where I'm sitting in cash even through part of this trend where I have like a 30% allocation in cash. I'm like, why am I sitting in this? What am I waiting to buy? If not, this dip last week at 490, like, why am I not chasing this trend more aggressively? And, it is what it is. I'm managing my risk along the way, and I'm definitely watering down some of my gains by doing it. But I don't imagine I'll ever get, perhaps as downside wrecked as I did following 2017. So, this is part of my journey. But this is what I'm seeing on ETH right now. We got some really nice targets lining up, in the 800 level, and likely a stop here at 700. So that's really exciting. And it's just a matter of, okay, so when? And when I ask when, there's only a few tools you can use that'll give you a time axis. So let's take a look at what the Gann shows us, because that's one of the things I like about Gann on a higher time frame. Is this the one? Oh, is this one? Oh, this one's interesting. Well, if you want to talk about the power of the Gann horizontal real quick, I'm glad this is on. There's a down move, Gann here. And so you draw this, basically, I drew this earlier today just by measuring from here down to this wick low. It's the first major impulse off this high. And that extends this entire friggin' thing. And so this horizontal right here at basically $100, like that's not, that was kicked out. That was like an extrapolation of just this one pivot way up here. And look what it did to price. Broke below, reclaimed, tapped. All that nuking in March was just a tap. Like these levels on the Gann horizontals on the Gann square are incredible. And you see it time and time again. They act as this invisible resistance. Like there was nothing really here. Well, actually, look, you go back, there was a little level there. But either way, this thing kicked out a really nice horizontal. It acted as a very strong support. So incredible. So where's the next Gann horizontal? Well, it's up here, right below, sort of at 750. So to me, it makes sense that we're going to be trending. Well, we are trending. It makes sense we're going to continue up into that area. I will be watching that very closely, that level. And that actually kind of front runs the main resistance that I think a lot of people are seeing. So we'll see how that reacts. But, we've got a potential resistance here, 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 here. So, there's going to be some work to do. But this is cool. Oh, sorry. I just saw this question. Jim Reardon says, love your risk management, voice of reason. So needed. I appreciate that, Jim. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I think it's an exciting market. And I think noisy, loud, bold, all capital predictions make the most for engagement. And so unfortunately, when you're in social media, you get a lot of that. And it can be dangerous because you come in and you just think, yeah, man, sweet. It's going to moon. I'm just going to buy, or I'm going to leverage. And then you get wrecked. And the person who wrote that to you and made you, perhaps compelled you to do that, is nowhere to be found. And if they are, they're just like, wow, you got wrecked. It's not my fault. So I do take it personally, and I try to stay as level as I can through all the bulls and the bears and the neutrals and the bullshit. So appreciate that, Jim. Let's take a look at a few. I know Ensure is coming up in the chat. I see Haka, APY, AKR, NFY. Yeah, I've actually got a few of those. I know, dude. I feel so bad. Subic Dreams just brought up the Matrix thing. I didn't actually see the website. I woke up today. I was in bed. I saw the trading pit. I was like, oh, dear Jesus. Another rug. It sounds like right out of the gates too. They didn't even give anyone a chance to de-risk and grow their shit and then rug. Like it was just like straight out. But that's really too bad. And it's just another reminder of why no matter how sexy something looks, just put a little bit in. Assume max loss and then soak in what that would feel like given what you're planning on risking, and then just lower that number until it wouldn't feel that bad. And you will water down your gains, but you will eliminate your risk of complete annihilation. And that's the one goal you have. Golden rule. Always have enough to come back and play the game tomorrow. The markets aren't going anywhere. But if you don't manage risk, you won't get to play in them. And it's a depressing thought, especially when things are looking so bloody good. So yeah, that was really depressing, Subic. I hope you didn't get caught in that. So high time frame on ETH, strong uptrend, not a top, doesn't look toppy. I think worst case, we're chopping here. Maybe we come back down, really shake that out, test that level, test this level, but like all part of a larger uptrend. And that's like the most bearish I can be on it right now. I don't even think we're going to get that. I think it's just going to be something along these lines, maybe navigate this for a bit, boring into February, March, and then who knows. I hope it gets up here before March, because that's where my ticks expire, my wicks expire, and I really wanted to rally into that. We'll see. This is the chart I think that you want to watch. I mean, first of all, look at this. I mean, we've got an uptrend, and how this resolves is going to be incredibly significant. So let's zoom in and unpack that. If we break above here, whoop, let's turn off the magnet. If we break, I need a bit different color. Let's go pink. If we break above here, expect a fairly aggressive move right up into here. That will be first stop. Well, I mean, there will be a stop here probably too, but like this will be like for sure some hold up, because that's a very strong trend line resistance. But it'll be the fourth touch, so we can expect potential breakthrough, which I do expect if we get there. If we break below here, that's pretty significant too. Probably going to see some downside, not major downside, but at least into that sort of 25, 24 level that Jack and I talked about last week. That's the one he's waiting on. So big kind of pivotal area for ETH BTC right now. The trend is up, so I'm obviously leaning to upside. And the reaction to this key support was very strong. So we didn't leave much liquidity down there. I mean, we swept the lows and then blew up off of it. This is a sell bar, but it made a new high during that. So I think a lot of that started off with more buying and then just got smacked down. So I would expect this. Now, we did see this Empire Fractal right here, which is really promising for me. They're pretty rare. Doesn't mean they always work, but the way they work basically is like if you were going to trade purely off that, you would have like an entry at the close, which I guess was like right here. And then you would just say, well, I'm bullish until the low of this middle candle breaks. This is a pretty big risk window. We've already pulled back. And then to get that to be worth your time, you'd have to stretch your profit right up to like a 3-to-1. But what's interesting, which I noticed today, and again, I don't trade this pair for better or worse. I probably should, because we've been calling it pretty well this summer, but this is how I would trade that. So within this that was the Empire, right? The new big daily that closed bullish. And you guys know me, like I'll just take this, I'll take that. And now I'm starting to hunt my entries down here. So same trade, right? I'm invalidating at the low of that Empire Fractal, but I'm looking for a nice cheeky entry. And this looks good. Not gonna lie, guys. Ethereum looks good. For better or worse, I am pretty heavily skewed towards Ethereum in my portfolio as far as like Bitcoin and Ethereum. I don't have any Bitcoin right now. All my major exposure is in Ethereum. And so if this breaks down, I will probably switch at least half that back to Bitcoin. But for now, my bet is that this breaks to the upside and ETH outperforms Bitcoin in the short to midterm. So we'll see how that ages. As a trader, I have risk on both sides. Any other requests for coins that you guys have? Get them in there. Let's see what Breeze is saying over here on Periscope. He says, with alt season at a halt, do you believe it's not a bad idea to accumulate good FA coins that bottomed? Yeah. Let me give you guys, that's a really good question. And so I do feel like it's worth the discussion for what I consider a bottom. Okay, there's bullish market structure here on the daily. Looks really good. After this long downtrend, I think a counter trend rally, and I'm using VET as an example because it was one of the leaders this summer. It actually broke out pretty aggressively before most of the DeFi did around May. So I expect it may continue that trend, and whatever it does, other altcoins may follow. So let's look at that bearish throwback. Big level up here at 138, right? That's basically where the market said, I'm a bear now. I mean, arguably up here too. but this was like the larger structure breakdown, right? Retest and fail. So to go up and retest that level, that's a trade. But if we do that, I have no illusions that that's like a new high we're going to go see. It's probably, consolidation. Like I don't think that, the market's just going to bottom the way that we've seen just yet. So this might be the inevitable low, but I still think that there's a pretty good chance that like altcoins could do this for quite a little while, maybe even into the spring. Q2 seems to be altcoins' favorite time to shine, as we saw this past year, obviously through May and all that, and then the summer. So what do I look for in a bottom? Well, I'd have to shout out to Brian Beamish, my trade mentor, and he's just always talking about weekly W's. So go to your weekly chart and look for a W. You got one here, so that's probably where you start thinking about stink bids. It took months to fill them, but they came in here, and did all that patience pay off? Yeah. There is a weekly W here. Didn't work out, right? Sometimes even weekly W's don't. It came, it fired. That was in the spring of 2019. There was a nice little alt window. I remember that. But then those lows broke. So if you didn't pay yourself here, you had to take stop losses here at the lows. And that's why, you get the hell out because you were wrong. Market's going down. So do we have a weekly W here? No. Do we have a daily one? And I can maybe try to catch a counter trend rally, perhaps even over trading, arguably. Yep. There's a trade there. And that's what I've been trading some of these. But no weekly W yet. So when I say this is a bottom, or this is something I'm willing to risk money on betting that it's a bottom, I would want to see more than just this. And, no more obvious than something like DOT. DOT is such a strong looking project. FA wise, yes, I will be loading DOT. And I did try to trade it in here, and I did get stopped out. I mean, actually on the USD pair, I took some profit. I made some money, but on my hold, I was going to put a few hundred DOT into a thing and just be like, I'm just going to hold this. Well, I cut it because I looked at the weekly and I was like, well, this doesn't look like a bottom at all. There's no sign of a bottom. In fact, there was only one green week since the initial hype of the listing rally, right? So the nice thing about waiting is yeah, okay, sure, it could do this and then that and then this, and that's your signal. And then you have to just sweat and wait, because usually after the weekly W prints, there is a fill somewhere in a reload zone of that, and then you get the big FU rally. That's a hard way to trade. It takes time and patience. But here's the good news. Here's the cool part. I better get a white color because I know purple's hard to see on this black screen. I've heard that anyways, if anyone's on their phone. But let's go take a look with some white ink. Here's the best part about waiting like this. DOT could just get really boring. I mean, parachains go live in January, so I don't know that I expect this to happen, but I don't need to know, right? I just need to wait until I see the thing that I'm looking for, which is that weekly W. So in waiting for these, you can actually find historically, you'll probably end up with way better entries. And if you're wrong, and by waiting, you missed the exact bottom, you probably won't get much worse of an entry, because lows, the ultimate lows, love to get retested. So I hope that makes sense. I am longing comp here. Maybe months from now, when there's a true alt season, I'll look back at what ends up being this kind of thing, like I've been talking about. Maybe I'm trading this, and then in a few months, when I see a big trend, I'm like, wow, all that chop, I wasted time and money trying to trade. I think that's very possible. I think I may look back at this and be like, I tried to rush in too quick. Right when it got to the bottom, I rushed in when there was going to be some more chop. But I'm long on comp right now. Actually, on perps. Might as well pull up the chart. I opened it today. Oh, look, it's on this chart. So obviously not financial advice. Don't rush to follow me. I don't know that this trade will be a winner. I think it might be. That's why I'm taking the risk. But looking based on the chart we just looked at, the Bitcoin one looks like it had a breakout, retest, and go. So I'm hoping on that. I took my first entry today in this pump chaser zone around 153. I've got two more entries waiting down here, and I'm invalidating here. I think it's a much safer trade to invalidate all the way down here and reduce size significantly. But then my profit has to be way up. That's not what I want. I actually just want to trade up to this short reload zone. So I'm tightening it up a bit. But we'll see. You know, you got some kind of bullish structure here, waiting on the pullback, maybe a slow bleed into here over a week, and then we position and go. So that's my trade on comp right now. I'm hoping will work out. But yeah, Jim's asking about comp. Okay, so I've got the list from Jim. Thank you for compiling that, brother. That makes my life so much easier and the stream a lot smoother. Let's go over here. Share obviously has been a huge focus of mine all week. This thing like exploded from like a penny because V1, V1 was looking promising, as you can see, but then they had a bug, they had an issue, the liquidity got locked, nobody could get it back. And that obviously did not age well, but they fixed the bug. The idea itself still remains. It's a very interesting protocol, and it's just absolutely exploded. So, it's nice levels coming in if you're patient, waiting on buys, dips and buys. I still think this thing has a ton of upside. It's tiny, and I really do see a big future for it, but I would just proceed with caution when it comes to finding levels for entry because it's going to be volatile. It's a low cap coin, and it's based on a rebase coin, so there's going to be some emotion, although share is not going to get debased. It's part of the protocol. But anyways, figured I should mention that while I'm on the chart. Now let's go over to APY. APY, I've heard of a couple times. Let's see what the chart says. Well, yeah, it's definitely the sexiest buy that it's been in 2 months from the highs. It's at the lows. So what you want to see then is signs that it's not going to go down anymore. For that, even though a lot of people like to hate on these because they don't know how to use them, you can actually get a lot of really good information from momentum indicators. So let's take a look at that. This is ChartX Pro, so I need to set these up manually so we can all see them. All right, so the MACD is just kind of a moving average indicator. It measures the distance between these two moving averages, one of which is an average of other moving averages. Okay, so as it's coming down, we want to see this start to reverse. And we're kind of seeing that a little bit. We have a slight divergence here where the MACD started to turn positive even as price was continuing to go down. So arguably some signs of divergence. How at the lows are we really? Okay, well, first of all, we definitely need to reclaim that level because that's just a clear bloody invalidation, I say. Right? We've got this ultimate low. We tested it, we broke through it, and now we're stuck below it. You do not want to be trying to long this coin if it's below the all-time low resistance. It's just not a smart play over time. Now, if you know something I don't know, like this thing has crazy TLV and it's actually a farming coin and I'm making all kinds of money because I farm it and then I sell it and that's why it's going down. Like, yeah, okay. There could be other ways that, but purely on price action, which is how I have to chart this because I've never heard of this coin. Like I've heard of it, but haven't looked into it. It's just not a place to rush and buy. Now, the good thing is support, resistance, it's getting a lot of play. So if it does break out, there's a pretty high probability that it will get checked at some point. And then the question is, will the buyers step in and support that level? And if they do, you're on the right side of the market and you can get in and play. And, who knows how it trends from there. But you should be waiting for that if you're not in yet and you're thinking about it. If I was already in this coin and it was like, oh, well, fuck, I just learned TA yesterday, so I didn't know that and I'm already in, what do I do? I would personally just hold on to it at this point and just make sure I got out if it did that below here. Because you're already so bloody close. I mean, what are you going to get in, get out, slippage, fees, whatever? I don't know. So that's APY. Let's check out HXRO. Oh, I have a chart on HXRO. Let's go see what HXRO is doing. No. Here's our chart history. There we go. There we go. Okay. So dying to chase this thing, there was the pump chaser zone. The market is not as excited as we were hoping. So the pump chaser has kind of bled out. So I've got to take option 2 now, which is down in the reload zone. I still think on the high time frames, this chart looks pretty outstanding, in the sense that it's kind of gone full cycle and it's come back down to a key support area. I mean, look at this level from before: resistance, 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 support, blows up, comes back in, support, support. So if this thing flipped to resistance, that's a really good invalidation. Get the hell out. It's not going up. It's going to keep going down. So because I have this really strong invalidation level here, I feel comfortable taking shots to the long side while price is above it. Obviously, the closer I can get to this level for my long, the better. As far as like Wi-Fi is going up, this thing has a partnership, it's blowing up. I want to chase, pump chaser is one option. Looks now like we're going to get a visit to the reload zone, which is juicy. That means, a 78% pullback of this move, taking back 78% of this rally. That's the 786 right here. That's a sweet entry. I would like that because it's a node on the VPVR, which means there was a lot of volume traded there. You can see that here, right? 2 major nodes. So this gap should get filled in, and that'll happen naturally if price trades between there, which it is right now. So every time a trade is made in this range, these volume bars grow. So this shows you how much volume was traded on a day or in an hour or whatever your time frame. And the VPVR just shows you how much volume was traded based on which price it was traded at. So you have a volume by your y-axis and a volume by your x-axis. So this, one thing you need to know about the VPVR is it wants to be a parabola. Normal distribution. That's what you should expect to see on a healthy, quote unquote, healthy VPVR. You don't see that yet. So it actually makes a lot of sense that we're going to come and fill this in. And that'll take some time. And that just means price could potentially be ranging here for a little while. I see it all the time. It happens. It's normal, healthy shit. How far do we range down? How long do we stay here? Well, I'll tell you what, when this starts to fill out and start looking like a parabola, that's going to be a really good signal that we're about done with this range and we're ready to move on. So for HXRO, I did trade it through here. I saw that it kind of fell out of steam and I decided I wanted to get a chintzier entry. I exited thinking half I would probably get left behind, but I did not, thankfully. So yeah, I'm going to be looking here, trying to get long probably off of this 786. That's where I'd like to get long. But I have to be prepared to see this revisit. This is the breakout point. Big stinky green candle probably needs to get filled in. So actually that's probably a level 2. And a lot of people right now, they're probably like, oh no, man, price is never going down there. And all I can think is like, perfect. Because that means when it does go down there, people will be convinced it's going to go even further. And they'll probably be selling into my bids. 43 sats. So not sexy in the short term, but perhaps for a position for like next year, next spring, HXRO is one of the top of my list, I'd say. Now let's flip down to HAKA. Should probably go faster through these because it is a beautiful day, and I'm sure there's some value to getting outside at some point before the sun goes down, which is like at 4 p.m. now. Gosh. HAKA's looking really good. So getting out of HXRO like I did paid off. I made some money, and I'm not part of this little downturn. But that same approach hurt when it came to HAKA because I did the same thing. I got out of my HAKA position in small profit, and I'm getting left behind now. So womp womp, way she goes. But like we talked about last week, we've got this fib extension. It's coming up into the level. Just got front run a little bit. So this thing's trending up. It's trending up really nicely. So you had a breakout, you had a retest, you had a breakout, we just had a retest. We've had some nice reaction to it. Not a lot of buy volume coming in after that last retest, but clean levels. It's really getting some clean level play here. And as you guys know, that's our pump chaser zone, 382, right? Most of you can probably see that without having to do this, but for those who are wondering, 3 and 5. So yeah, sick pump chaser zone. And that's the kind of thing you have to have limit orders working, like on 1 inch exchange or something. If you wanted to catch that, probably pretty quick. But let's see. I would expect it to come up into here. Fib extensions they just get so much bloody play. So I would be surprised if this was your local top. I think the trend, you can just see the volume kind of pouring in. We just broke out of this big consolidation. Is that going to be it? Probably not. So it's my 2 cents. More upside for HAKA is the more probable outcome. No guarantees. So let's go on to. Oh yeah, did Nick talk about? Yeah, maybe Nick did mention something about a 10-cent reclaim. Jim mentioned. Yeah, memes on wheels. You can request a coin. Hell yeah. Just keep in mind when it's a DeFi coin, there's so much more to know than just what's on the chart. TLV, is it rebase? Can you even chart those? Is it generating a yield? And that should be factored into my charting. Like you guys have to bring that knowledge as best you can, and I will apply just base TA to it because I don't necessarily have time to, or even the knowledge to like know what I'm looking for to dig into the nitty gritty. You know who I watch for that is Messiah. I actually told myself today, I was like, I'm going to start watching his streams because he teaches so much of how to do that analysis, and that's the shit I need to know and I want to learn. Nansen and blockchain analysis and smart contracts. Oh my God, I'm not a programmer. Computer scientist guy, but that's the kind of shit I want to learn so that I can get more into the farming, which I've just discovered, and it's actually pretty sweet. Rook looks good. God, I'm kicking myself over Rook, man. I bought it at $35. Sold it at like 70 or something. Should probably get the USD chart of it. Yeah, I was very fortunate. Little birdie. Well, it's actually not too bad. It's actually down at 76, so I don't feel too bad. But yeah, I was very fortunate to have had a conversation with Messiah right here. And he said, I was like, what are you looking at these days? He's like, well, Rook looks good. And so I did. I bought some here, and I think I sold it like here. I was like, oh, 2x, sweet. And then, I was like, ooh, shit. I don't want to buy it. But I actually do want to buy some. I would like to have some. So we'll see. Maybe I need to get in there again because it sounded pretty good. Apparently they're actually making profits and stuff with whatever the hell they're doing. But look at that. Oh my God. Okay, whoever brought this to my attention, I love you. Because check out Rook. Comes in 786, just like I'm looking for on Acro. Higher low, breakout. And you guys know every time I see that, I'm not even racing to chase that, right? Because it's all about getting that next short RLZ. And look at it. So we're parked on the sweet spot of the higher time frame RLZ, which we've now made bullish market structure. We're now parked in the shorter time frame RLZ on the 786, on the 702. Oh, I love this entry. Don't go aping into this shit, guys. If I swear to God, if I see a green candle go up here, I'm going to cry. But yeah, I'm going to go pick some of this up today if it's still below here. I mean, if you really want to play it safe, you're waiting for this to break and then trying to get a buyback on something like that. But I've waited for this thing since basically mid-November, and I think I'm ready to add a little to the pile. He's fine. Whoever brought up Rook, I know that's been a hot topic in the trading pit, but this chart just looks greasy in a good way. And we're starting to see volume fall off here, which through consolidation sometimes is not a bad thing. And then what you're going to end up seeing hopefully is a big breakout on volume as well. So we'll keep an eye on that. Yeah, don't go too hard, boys. Let me have a little bit before we send it to 1700 or whatever it's going to be. What's really exciting, okay, like for fun, let's be a moon boy for a sec. Let's go look at the fib extension for this first move, because that's probably where we're going to head if we break to new highs, whenever that is. There we go. So I got to change this now to, let's just go 1618. Did you forget what the other number is? What is it? Where's an extension? Dang it. Not one fib extension. Oh, here we go. 809. 1.809 and ooh. Okay. And I have to reverse it. Move that. Let's go to the left. Really like when this is green. Okay, we're good. So yeah, look at that. 372. That's where I'd be targeting if I'm breaking out from here. But this looks like, a lot of people look at this like, boring, right? Looks like shit. If you've been holding it for this whole time, you're starting to lose interest because everything around you's, things are moving. Some of them. But this is when I like to get greedy. When you have a big burst, then you have a retrace, then you have a breakout, then you have a retrace. This is the level. If you're trying to be bullish on something, you got to see before the price. And what does that look like? Well, I don't know, get a stop loss out. Maybe I'm risking probably to this low. I don't really want to see it go too much further. I mean, that's crazy. 11.5 to 1. That's risking 35% of my position. So it's a pretty big risk drawdown. But like, I only have to be right 1 out of 10 times on this kind of a trade, and I will eventually make money. So yes. Okay. Rook. Writing it down because I do this all the time, and then I am tired after the stream. I go take a little break and I come back and I'm just looking at something else. So I'm going to look at Rook tonight. Famous last words. Yeah, big shout to Messi on these coins, man. He knows how to spot the latest good cool shit. I mostly focus on and excel at charting up any old thing, but like, these kinds of things, like I'm admittedly kind of overwhelmed with all the new stuff, and I stopped reading white papers in like 2018. Like I used to just read every new thing that was coming out and be like, oh, this is great, that's shit, this is great. And I got kind of like, I don't know, burnt out by that. So really love that I get to work with Messi, because then I can just chat with him, watch his streams, and he does the hard work. But I think it's nice. We complement each other well. Nick looks at the dusty old economics reports, charts the majors, understands what's going on in the real world. I just go TA heavy. Messi dives into the nitty gritty smart contracts. I mean, it's a really, if I haven't shilled it before, I got to say, we've built a nice team here. Let's get into the next one. Kusama. Kusama gave me a nice trade earlier. I shook myself out of it, but like whatever, made a little money. So I can't complain. Let's go see. Yeah, like I think I bought this breakout at $40 and then sold it probably like 50 something. Just a nice little trade. Kusama just looks great. This thing's trending up. It's so strong. And this is versus USD. It doesn't really seem to give a shit what's going on in the market. It's just doing well. Yeah. Well, we're in the pump chaser zone. That's something of note. Last time we were in that, things aged pretty well for Kusama. So this, and that's it, right? You've got a high time frame uptrend. So where do you want to get in on that? How can you get into a big trend without feeling like you're just buying the rally, buying the tops? Well, you got to find the dips. And on strong trending coins, those dips tend to take place in this pocket, which we just left. So yeah, not a terrible time to be looking at Kusama if you're in it for the long haul. Let's go look at Huobi. I think it's actually better even on Qcoin. Yeah, this, oh my God. So, and in fact, you shouldn't be charting this on Binance. You need to understand that it's not just like these are the all-time lows. Like this thing came from like 30 cents. So just be aware of those levels too. I suppose I should talk about the 3-day, because, on this view, it actually doesn't even look as good. We made new highs, but the momentum indicators did not. RSI made a bearish divergence. So did MACD, although neither are confirmed yet. They're just kind of potentials. There was nowhere near as much buy volume up here. So actually on the high time frames, this doesn't look quite as good. Like on the 3-day. But, throughout uptrends, you tend to get a lot of divergences. It's a fact. So, yeah. Kusama. Looks pretty good. If I'm being real chintzy and I want to get in with the minimal amount of risk, I mean, yeah, first stop would be here. My more patient approach might be down here, where, it's just woo, 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 woo. One thing, you definitely want to make sure that this isn't where your stop losses are. I learned that a long time ago the hard way, where I get so excited and I try to rush in here and I take some size. And so I'm stopping out here and then I'm losing interest here, here, and here. And then 2 months later, I look back and I'm like, oh man, that was my reload zone. Why didn't I get along that? Oh yeah, that was my stop loss. Shit. But, that's why markets are tricky, because if you wait for this, you may never get it. And then you're like, why didn't I buy? So dollar cost averaging. I want to spend $100. I'm going to put in 25 here. 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 If I get the complete fill, dope. If not, well, I got some no matter what. So laddering bids. Idle NFY. Okay, idle came up a couple times now. Did we talk about that on here before? Okay, cannot forget Rook. God, Johnny, remind me. Let's go both buy some. Fuck it. Not financial advice, everyone, but I am pretty pumped about that one because I've been waiting for it. We talked about idle last week, and I believe, I don't know, but I feel like my TLDR was like wait, because it was kind of up in the tops of its range, and it's just not really where you want to buy. Even if it's an uptrend, you don't want to buy the highs. You want to buy the higher lows. It's tricky. This one's a tricky buy for me. Not knowing anything else about it, it causes me some hesitantness, if you will, hesitation. There's something to be said for like this trend line, and I find buying on trend lines like this pretty risky. They tend to break a lot. Or like this, I broke through, but it didn't invalidate. It kept going. So how do you measure risk against this? I don't really know. So gotta reset this. I was messaging the team for ChartX Pro today, trying to see if they can get the feature where I can save templates. No luck. They're very helpful and responsive though, but they don't have that feature just yet. But hey, we're in the pump chaser zone. So it's like a place for the eager beavers to take their first shots. I personally would be waiting for this reload zone, which will be much easier to see once I add the background. That's it for me. Easily could see this happening. And then, exactly which level it ends up at is very hard to say. But, laddering, catching this kind of consolidation. Because from the looks of the chart, there's a lot of people in here that have already made a lot of money, which means they will sell. Not guaranteed, right? But when price starts to move down and it has gone up so much, people start to see the gains that they used to have. Then they start to see the gains dripping away. Then they start to look way lower and start to freak out. And so you get a lot of late profit taking on the way down. And it usually ends, and that equilibrium usually reverses right around this reload zone, which is why they call it the reload zone, right? Buy, pay yourself, reload. That's the nature of the RLZ. So that's my 2 cents on idle. Patience. What else we've got? NFY. I actually have a ridiculously tiny bag of this because same kind of thing with Rook. I bought some, I had a nice chat with Messi. I bought some, traded it. And then, I made like a few $100 and I just kept that few $100 of NFY in there, like a free position. very tiny, like boringly small. I don't even, it's like 67 tokens or something. So I would like to get some of this. Non-fungible yield, I think it was called, or yearn, or non-fungible something. And I love NFT stuff. So I will be looking at this. Can't say it's that exciting. I mean, not a ton of buy volume, nothing to get excited about. In fact, it's just kind of dwindling, which could be good during consolidation, like we said, but it's certainly at a level, right off the lows, reload zone, something I would buy as far as like location. But personally, would like to see some kind of reversal, because right now it's just like lower high, lower high, lower high, lower high. There's no sign of uptrend. So I need to wait for this one until there is some kind of this, right? So we have a higher high, higher low, breakout. Now I can think about buying the next dip, wherever that is. Purchase, that kind of thing. Right now, downtrending. So, and that's actually pretty normal. I actually do expect that this will happen, but I'm going to be disciplined and wait for it. Because if I'm wrong and nobody decides they like this coin and it decides whatever, I mean, that's below. Actually, no, zero's down here, but you know what I mean? Like this, every day I'm not in is a day I might get a better deal. And if I do get the reversal I think might come, I can just go buy it then, presumably for a much larger move. And sure, getting a little FOMO on this one. I actually haven't seen the price, but I don't have any. And I did. Same kind of thing. It was part of my Rook day. Had a chat with Messi. He basically told me all the things he's got in his bags. I bought them all. I forget where I bought this one, but same kind of thing, and it's just been a slow ass trend up. Nexus Mutual guy got hacked today. I don't think it was an issue with their platform. It was literally like he got hacked for like $8 million. So that sucks. But it opens the door for other insurance plays that perhaps don't have that same kind of bad PR, because whether it was an issue with their protocol or not, it is not good PR, period. Poor guy. I mean, that sucks. MetaMask vulnerability or something. Freaky though, man. Imagine you're just flying through and approving a transaction, because who really checks those anymore when you're doing 50 transactions a day? And it wasn't his thing. Like it was like he thought he was sending something here, but in fact, some malware had basically snuck in and was getting him to approve a totally different transaction, which in this case was $8 million being sent to the hacker. Oh, the gut wrench. So Ensure looks great. What can I say? Slow uptrend. Big, dirty uptrends tend to start slow. So don't think just because it's moving slow that that's the way it'll go forever. You get those parabolic kind of whatever. They tend to start slow. So this looks great. In fact, I wish I bought this dip, because that's probably, we'll see. For now, it's a lower high. So maybe I can sneak in here, but this one looks good. No two ways about it. It's trending up. Clearly some buy interest. Even has some increasing volume. So I don't know. I might even just go pick up a little shit bag. What is it? $4? So I size it such that I could lose 100% of the position without breaking a sweat. And I'm going to sell half on a double, which would be like right here. Seems reasonable. So, buy 500, get to there, sell 250. Now I have 250 Ensure tokens completely for free for the rest of my life until I decide to sell them. That's probably something I'm looking at with this one. The thing with that strategy, sounds cool, right? It sounds so easy. It's like, oh, I'll do that, but I'll do that huge $10,000. But the problem is, it just might not, and it might not, and then it might later. And if you oversize, you will sell at a loss. So that strategy is called Little Old Lady. It works really well with tiny bite-sized pieces, so that I'm not even going to check this chart until I get the price alert, because I don't care, because it's that small. That's how I would have to play this, because it's not in a buy zone for me. It's pretty up high in its range. So I hope that makes sense. Yeah, fake MetaMask, man, crazy. read about it this morning. Let's go take a look at RSR. God, we got so many good ideas coming in. RSR is another one. I think we'll go to Huobi. It's got a longer history. This is one I've got a free position in. And so I kind of keep an eye on it. I'd like a larger position. Because I traded it. This was thankfully one of the ones I was trading at the start of the year. So wherever it was. Yeah, January, February, whatever. I think I actually got my double before this, and I was feeling like such a genius. I was like, yeah, I sold half on a double. I have a free position, so I don't care about the crash. And then I didn't trade it through this, which was like probably short-sighted because my free position wasn't huge. I think it's, it's worth a few $100 or maybe $1,000 now. I don't even know. It's so bloody expensive now compared. But either way, what does it look like now? That's what you want to know. Who cares, RT, that you traded this months ago? It's not what I was asking, but I'm rambling. So here we go. Let's check it out. We're fib ponging, it looks like, which is to be expected. Big dirty rally, big dirty sell-off, trend back up, meet resistance, trend back down, find support, trend back up, meet resistance, consolidation until the next big moon party. So that's a support that we just retested. So, we may not come back down here. But based purely on what I just described, I could see it consolidate through here one more time. If not worse, always that caveat emptor that we might go lower. But as far as an uptrend goes, this seems like an interesting area to be thinking about. All the good things I've been discussing today. But I mean, yeah, pretty easy short here because what he's seeing, right? You're seeing essentially like a cycle bubble where it just got crazy and then dumped extremely hard. So when the first revisit comes to that short reload zone, you should expect sellers to step in. People trying to escape perhaps from their positions that they were trapped in. Or they had a bunch of profit, then they saw it all drip away and they said, as soon as that profit's back, I'm not going to let that happen again. So I get out. That's the psychology of why markets form these same patterns all the time. So that takes time to clean up. Probably something like this. On a grosser view, you have to consider the full range, which the author or the guy who I got this idea from, he would say, nah, let's look at the whole thing. Why are you forcing the fib up in there? And you can see it worked out as far as like this whole bubble. People were like, when do I buy? Well, like, well, wait for the reload zone. Turned out it was a good idea. Do we come back there? Yeah, I think at least to the 618, which is almost perfect with the 702, which is where I'd like to buy anyways. So yeah, right here. And I think I may be stepping in here. So I'm actually going to set an alert. Let's say 146. That should give me some time to go sort it out. 146. Let's say hunt bids in RLZ. That'll tell me to do that. And so once we knock this price off, if we do, I'm going to start getting some bids going. Hey, Muay Thai guy. Appreciate that. It says brilliant stream. We'll be looking out for it more often. That's great. We are, my name's RT, Random Task. I work with HXRO Labs, and that is Crypto Gasolina asking that. So Messiah, Nick, and myself are all part of HXRO Labs. Nick and I stream Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Today we had Koroush on, and I'm just doing some bonus extra coverage because there's so many bloody altcoins in this space. Can't chart them all in an hour. Let's do one or two more, guys, and then I am going to wrap. It's getting up to the 2-hour mark. I find when I go well beyond 2 hours, I end up just napping for 12 hours afterwards, and it's not too great. What are the pump chaser zone levels? Yeah, 0.382 and 0.5. KoroushAK. So keep an eye on those levels. I really do prefer the reload zone for what it's worth. You'll see that on my charts more often. But let me give you an example of when not. Like when there's a pump, right? It's like, let's see, actually Chili's today. Be a good example. We'll see. Yeah. So let's take a look at Chili's because it's pumping because Binance announced a strategic partnership. So that's not like, oh, maybe it's going to meander here and there. It's like, no, this thing's going to go fucking ape shit. Right. So am I going to wait after that first impulse for a reload zone? No, because it's probably not going to come, but check it out. Pump chaser zone. Perfect. Just this morning. Right. So that's, this is a pump. This is like, oh, news driven, crazy blow up. Oh my God, I want to get in. Where do I do it? Well, I'm going to draw that fib up, pump chaser zone. I'm getting on board. Just happened to have this perfect example this morning from old Chili's. In fact, I put it out on our Twitter this morning. Let's see how that aged. Ask me if I traded it. Nope. But it did. Damn, look at that. Let's see. Actually, maybe it didn't. No, I drew it off the higher time frame. Womp womp. Poor me. Poor everyone. Stay poor. Yeah, no, I drew it up off the low to what was the high when I tweeted, which was this morning right here. So that hasn't come in yet. The alternative that I suggested was that maybe I'm looking for longs here off this SR flip, because you can see historically this has been major support. So you would expect it to be resistance, which it was. You would also expect a partnership with Binance to say, fuck you, resistance, I'm coming in, which it did. And so a level like that should get a test. Of course, it may not hold. That's the risk, but it should at least get a test. So I can look at 77, 76, and I can be pretty comfy with those. But what I need first is a daily close. I don't want to see this thing turn into a big wick and it sells off and you're like, oh, well, Chili's just wasn't ready. Partnership or not, this bottom wasn't strong enough. So I'm going to wait on the daily close. And it's very possible, we get a nice close up here and then tomorrow's wick, candle, something like that. Then the next day, and the next day, the next day, and then it's like continue, right? So that dip into here tomorrow might be a trade for me. We'll see. But as far as the pump chaser goes, we got to move it up now because the high is new now. So maybe that's it, actually. I like that better. We've got a wick high here. We've got a wick high here. What is that? 74. And when you're in low shit, like sats, low sat coins, every sat counts. So 74 is way better than 77. Maybe it's that I'm looking for. And it's crazy. Like we got a wick high here. We got a candle body close there. So maybe it's that. And more realistically, if I'm really keen to get in on Chili's, because I think it's going to come up and test this resistance and maybe even go all the way up to the short reload zone, crazy chaos level up here. Well, then maybe I'm just like bid 1, bid 2, bid 3, and I'm comfortable holding until either those lows break or those lows break or the ultimate lows break. You got to figure out. I mean, that's the hard thing with trading. Why it's so hard to tell other people how they should trade it. I don't even know how I'm going to trade this. I think this drawdown is a little too big for me, 27%. You want to have 3 years of protection. It's the safest, but probably like that. 20%. That means I'd have to go to here to get my 3 to 1. And, there's some levels up there. I don't know. So we'll see. Or, you just bring it in nice and tight right next to that pump chaser zone. And then you just have to trade it up into this to get your 3 to 1. So again, so many different ways to do it. In many ways, I think hodlers just have it. They're like, oh, partnered with Binance, probably going to do well over the next year. So I'm just going to buy a couple on these dips and then just not even look at it for a year. It's a great way to trade sometimes. Let's go see. Last thoughts. Monero. I do recall the weekly looking delightful. Let's see what it looks like now. Nah, we can do better. All right, yeah. Oh my God. Like when you see this, for all the times that you just want to buy things after they pump like crazy, I mean, this thing's been moving, but it's not done. Doesn't look like it anyways. Get these higher highs or higher lows, higher highs. It's starting what looks to be a much larger uptrend. Monero, I would say, is probably the number one privacy coin. I don't know if that's an obvious fact. In my mind, it is. Maybe the market cap's biggest, so it's like, obviously, bro. But I think it's an easy front runner for privacies. And it's trending up. So I guess more importantly, the question is when moon, or more particularly, where moon? And I mean, short reload zone for sure, as far as there will be some resistance here. There's a number of levels I see on the side where you could expect pauses. Because traders will trade, right? They'll see this and they'll say, oh, I'm going to take some profit there. And I'm going to take some profit there. And some other guys are going to see this and say, well, I'm definitely taking profit here. And somebody else will say, oh, yeah, well, that's the weekly breakdown level. I'm going to take profit there. That's the weekly high candle body close before the all-time highs. I'm going to take some profit there. And so what you end up with is something like, this kind of play off these big levels. And that is how you have the uptrend. So, yeah, I mean, Monero looks really good. There's no two ways about it. It's got this huge base that I just drew a terrible line on. Just nice, big consolidation. So what I would do is kick out a chaos level. These things are crazy. Maybe even just here. 222. 402. Nice confluence right on this level. What are the odds? You can get some confluence on these. And then more recently, you'd have this. From this consolidation, you could expect here. So, yeah, I mean, chaos levels are always up. That's the whole point. They extend above. So it's not like, look, they're all up here. It's like, of course they are. But these are some other little hidden resistances you could expect to see. Profit levels. I think my favorite level on this chart based on this is in this 200 area. I think should be some steep resistance there as far as next targets. So keep an eye on Monero. It's a bit of a slow mover for me. I don't trade this too much. I might look on margin kind of thing, get a little scalpy, but it's not really my cup of tea. So Heal wants to look at the link. Okay, let's wrap up with link today, guys. Nothing like a stinky linky to end the day. Wow, it doesn't look great. Uh-oh. I just lost 10,000 friends. The Link Marines don't love it. It doesn't look great. Now, keep in mind, I've never traded Link. I've always been left behind. So let that be the premise of what I'm about to say. But it just doesn't. Even Koroush earlier today, he's a huge fan of Link, and he sees this kind of thing where you had a nice little uptrend going. You lost it. You're retesting it. It's not great. And that's actually great news for guys like me, because I would like to have a position in Link, ideally a free position. So I need to find a level where I can buy, where I think I can then sell at double that price and sell half my position and then have a free position in Link, risk-free. That's my goal. You can see from the highs, we came down and tagged the reload zone, then tested it, and then took off. Very impressive. I will tell you without looking that I bet we went to the short reload zone. And we did. Perfect tag almost of the sweet spot. Very nice. Why do you guys think I trade off this stuff, man? It's crazy. Did I trade this? No. But had I been trading it, would these have been the levels I'm selling and buying? Yup. Should probably start doing that once in a while. Might make some more money. So what to expect next? Well, if this is going to be, big rally up, big smackdown, consolidate, Fib Pong style, well, then we need to drop an even smaller one. From this low to this high, that reload zone is down in here. And I would say the probability of us visiting this area is extraordinarily high. So take that in your pipe and smoke it. But I do think, I mean, this isn't much of a call. It's like $2 drop, but based on everything I'm seeing, yeah. Where would I want to buy Link? Well, for sure, I'm interested in my sweet spot because you can even see this one got front run a little bit, but this one was a perfect tag. So clearly, this coin is respecting these levels. Some coins don't as much as others. This one does, anecdotally speaking. So these are my initial levels. Ultimately, there's something to be said for these levels, but we're going into a big rip-face bull market, and I don't know that all these big RLZs are going to get tagged the way that I might like. So I'm probably looking here and here. And ideally, getting more than just a level to work with. So let's see. Come down. Making a low. Making a low. Maybe bouncing up. And then making that new low. And because of this bounce, the momentum indicators will be kind of looking bullish. And so when this newer low comes in, I should see some higher lows on my momentum indicators, MACD, RSI, whatever. That's suddenly where I really get excited. So that first low, yeah, maybe I'm going to average in a bit, but it's really the newer low. And instead of freaking out, I'm going to just look and be like, oh, look, RSI didn't make a new low. Oh, look, MACD didn't make a new low. Now I'm getting really interested. Does that make sense? So, and that's people watching like, well, you're predicting Link goes down. I was like, I'm not. I think it probably will. I'm not going to short it to those levels, but that's where I'm going to get interested in buying. And if it comes in, great. If it doesn't, I've missed it this far. I can miss it one more time. I still remember looking at it here. Didn't know what it was. And I was just like, Link, that sounds weird. That sounds like Zelda. And I just never looked past that. So stupid. But for what it's worth, I think this would be a really sweet entry on the high time frame. So 8, 9, 10, that kind of range. Let's do it. You guys have been fabulous today. I've been loving diving into these altcoins with you. Let's get back to the screen. Really nice chat with Koroush AK today. So great to have him on the stream for the first time. Sounds like he wants to come back, which is really exciting because we can have him back. Maybe rotate in on a 10-week level, 8 weeks, something like that. And Wednesday we'll have Nick on the stream. Next Monday, the guest will be a guy that I just want to call DeFi Nate because he doesn't really have a following. He doesn't have even, I think he's only on Twitter. He's never tweeted once. He just follows people that are smart. He's completely unknown, and that's exactly the way he wants it. Because, he has nothing to gain from a following. He crushes the DeFi farming and all that stuff. And I have the feeling that he's just incredibly smart. Like I haven't asked him yet, but I feel like he went to MIT or something. I have no idea, but he's spinning up his own nodes and pulling things directly from the mempools and front running and riding people's transactions out of DeFi farming plays to avoid the fees. Like this dude is smart as hell. And so I can't wait to just pick his brain on stream. It'll be a little more talk heavy, but I'm sure he can take us through some of the stuff he does use because he doesn't really use charts. He uses other data, quantitative analysis. So anyways, looking forward to that. Dude is smart as hell. I've had a few calls with him, and I just want to share as much as he's willing to share with us so that we might master the DeFi space. So have a wonderful evening, everybody. And whatever you do between now and Wednesday, always play from a position of strength. Take care.